Welcome to Meditation and Aliens with Doro and Matt, a webcast that explores everything we currently know about the truth about aliens, human history, reality, consciousness, and the role meditation can do to help us understand all these things, and how we might all work together to build the best world possible for all beings, human or non-human alike. Meditation and Aliens is hosted by me, Matt Reddy. I'm an amateur ufologist. I have a degree in philosophy. I'm the creator of hive1.net. I'm the author of a book called Revolutionary Mindfulness that's about meditation and activism. I'm also an elected public hospital commissioner in Jefferson County, Washington. Each week, I am joined by Doro Kiley, longtime meditator, a meditation teacher, and an experiencer with many stories, and life coach extraordinaire. You can find more about Doro at her website, creationcoach.com. Now, on to the show. All right, we are back with another episode of Meditation and Aliens with Doro and Matt. How you doing, Doro?
I'm doing really well. I have been sort of researching the mantis species, and I've learned that there's 3 different kinds, and they show hieroglyphs all across this country and all over the world. So seems to be some kind of a species that's been around a long time. And they say Native American cultures used to call them the ant people because I guess they had some underground habitation or something.
Yeah.
So that's what I have just been doing just before we got on here. So.
And you're finding there's 3 different kind of mantid?
Yeah, they say there's the green ones who are actually enslaved by the Orions and the Greys. I mean, who knows if any of this is true, but this is what I was looking at. Then there's the white species of mantis, which is much taller, and they are also being used with the Zeta Reticuli and all. And the one that was, for me, most interesting, they described as the black humanoid mantis, which I think was the one that I was exposed to as a child, around 63 maybe, or 61, somewhere around there. I was quite young. But yeah, they are supposed to be assisting somehow in the awakening of consciousness in this planet, and part of a hybridization program. So I just found it fascinating. That's where my brain went. So it's interesting.
So we're the 3. Tell me that again. You got 3 different mantids, and one's black, one's green. The green ones were enslaved by the Greys, and the black ones that was the one you saw as a child?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, who knows? It was so dark and scary at the time, and I was so young. I probably reinvented it a million times in my brain. But the way I remember it was the way they described the black mantis, more humanoid.
And that makes sense that they'd be called the ant people if they were black as opposed to green. And where were you physically located when you saw the black?
In New York, and I was just a little girl. I was, maybe 7 years old, and I was in bed. And the open door to the hallway was lit. There was a light in the hallway, and I opened my eyes, and there was a very tall, went to the top of the door frame, what I would describe as the silhouette of this sort of really tall insect-looking thing. It had a very triangular head and large slanted eyes. And I remember it had like strange wrists. So, and I don't know, the imagination, who knows? I kind of wrote it off as a dream for just decades. And until now, I start hearing other people's stories, same thing. And I'm like, wow.
And I remember we've talked about this before, but you said you remember kind of asking it to leave, you felt, is that what you said? Because you don't feel like it came in, and is that right?
It wasn't, it scared the daylights out of me. And so, I just ducked under my covers. I pulled the covers over my head and just hoped it would go away. And then when I peaked, it was gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
yeah.
Mantids. I mean, that is such a. I so want to find out more about them.
The other thing that I was experiencing back then, and this had happened several times, and it was really frightening. I would be in bed and I would see something almost like this dark circle opening up on the ceiling and over in the corner, and it would just get bigger and bigger, and it was like this black energy. It's like, and I thought, oh, that was going to pull me in, and that happened so many times that when it did happen, I would jump out of bed, run down the hallway, jump in the bed with my parents, and I'd have to squeeze really tight down in between my mom and dad so that it couldn't get me. But I don't remember if it ever got me. I don't have any memory of being abducted, but who knows? They probably wiped my memory. I don't know.
Yeah, there's
But
so many stories that involve memory wiping technology. Like it's really hard to know what really happened if that
mhm,
technology exists.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so that sounds very much like abduction scenarios. So it's yeah,
I
but
wonder if I could get a some kind of a regression hypnotic system, session where they put me under hypnosis. Does
yeah.
anybody do that?
Oh my gosh, yeah, they're specialists in that. That's how they get so many of the details of these abduction stories. I mean, we could do a little research. That would be worth I think you would find personally, I mean, I think you'd want to know.
Wow,
That's
I could
really
open up a whole can of worms.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's might be something to look into. I did a hypnotic regression for past lives
Really?
about a
Yeah.
month ago. And first time that I'd ever been successfully hypnotized with a professional.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was really more like a guided meditation because I didn't feel like I never lost, any sort of control. It was more like just having someone help you really, really get relaxed and meditate. And then I just had to keep an open mind and try to be patient with myself about what, if anything came up. And, but I was just patient with myself. I sort of went in with that attitude of just I'm not gonna like make up stuff. If nothing, no images or anything come to mind, I'm not going to make up stuff. And but the other side of that is I had to be just willing to, even if it was just a flash, or just a barely a flash of anything, I just had to say it because it's like, immediately when I had some flash of something, I was like, "Oh, I'm making that up." But I was like, "No, I didn't really make that up. Just say what I saw,"
Yeah.
And once I did that, I got on a roll and I ended up seeing 3 different past lives.
Oh, that's neat. I had one done. I just saw one past life, but it was traumatic, so she pulled me out of it pretty quickly.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
we could do a whole podcast on that, right?
Yeah.
Past life
Well, it
regressions.
it kind of overlaps with a topic that, I'm gonna get into, but is there any more details you wanted to share from
Not so much. I did want to look into that one website that you had mentioned, the Farsight. Was that
Yeah,
it?
that's
Yeah,
right.
it would
Oh,
be.
I am absolutely gonna talk about that.
Oh, good.
I
Okay.
have a little audio, video clip I can play because they have trailers up on YouTube, and so I'm gonna play part of one that'll give, everyone sort of an introduction to it.
Oh,
Um,
good.
in fact, the founder of the Farsight Institute is this guy named, Courtney Brown, and they are an institute that does remote viewing and to study every topic that is of interest, and tons of them about history and aliens and disclosure and the government, the JFK assassination. I mean, everything. And it is a rabbit hole of rabbit holes.
Wow. I want to learn how to do remote viewing.
Yeah. Well, it's when I did that hypnotic regression, it really opened my mind to the possibility of it because it really worked. I really started to see like how you could just trust what your mind comes up with to show you something. And I mean, I mean, the remote viewing thing, I was like, this could be just sort of, I was facilitated through coming up with three past life stories that really seemed powerful and meaningful to me. Maybe I was co-creating it, but I don't know. I don't know. And, um, but also all this, all the stories of abductions and everything you're hearing in ufology, there's so much evidence of telepathy being possible. So
Yeah.
there's so much evidence that information can get to our minds in ways we don't understand. And so that opens up my mind to remote viewing could be real. There's also a ton of evidence the CIA worked on remote viewing and they used it. And
They use it, yeah. So if they're using it, you feel like it's got to be something to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so, but I've never really looked into it. Oh, and Lou Elizondo, he's one of the premier figures in the UFO whistleblower community. He really led the charge, and before David Grush and everything, and he's been involved with remote viewing. He's never wanted to talk about it. He was on the Theories of Everything podcast, and he talked about everything. But he at one of the podcasts at the beginning, he said to the guy Kurt, the host of it, he said, the one topic I do not want you to ask me about, and I'm not going to talk about, is remote viewing.
Ooh.
And so and he said it was because it was private, but it's also such a woo-woo topic. I don't think he wanted it to make him lose his credibility. And
Okay.
and Hal Puthoff, another major figure in the history of this topic. Um, he's also apparently been deeply involved with remote viewing, but again, he hasn't really talked about it a lot. In any case, so this takes us to the topic I want to share. I've never really looked into remote viewing, but this trailer came up on YouTube for the Farsight Institute, where and I want to play some of it, and where they did a project. What they do is they pick a subject, and then they have three of their best remote viewers uh, do a remote viewing on it. And the way it works is someone writes the target down on a piece of paper, and effectively it works like this. They write the target down, and they put it on a piece of paper, and they put it in a sealed envelope. And then all they do is they just write a number, a random number identifier on the envelope to create a label for the target. So the label could be something like X3Y/158, whatever. And that is all they tell the remote viewer. Your target is, X35138. And then
Wow.
and then the remote viewer does they do a meditation practice, and they might be given a few other things, like your target has well, they might have, sometimes they have a person guiding them, like because when you do apparently a remote viewing session, you start to see either structures, and they have very generalized language for it, whether it's structures that are on a surface, or they're disconnected surface structures in space. And then you have subjects. Like if you see a being of any sort during the remote viewing, they call it a subject, and they're like, the subject A is standing there, and then maybe surrounded by a bunch of other people, and then their focus target might be so they might know they're trying to get to a specific subject, or a specific event, or a specific concern related to this subject and event. And so they might be giving some very general things of what they're trying to get to.
So I have a question. Can you remote view into the past or the future, or is it present moment
Well,
oriented?
I thought it was just a present moment thing, but
Yeah.
apparently they can do any time and place. And so,
Wow.
yeah, so this, um, so they did the Lacerta files. The Lacerta files is a supposed interview between a reptilian alien and a guy in December 1999. And here, I'm just going to play some of the trailer here, and to give people a little taste of what drew me in to actually um, to listen to this and actually go down this rabbit hole. So how about I just play a little bit of that?
Yeah, yeah. And did you say this was December 1999?
This the this remote viewing was done just last year, but the event, the interview, the Lacerta file was from December 1990. That's when the Lacerta interview
Oh, the
apparently
Lacerta.
happened.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So let's see. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Farsight's monthly series, Galactic Mysteries. This series focuses on extraterrestrial matters, both near and far, in this galaxy. I am Yemi Janae from Farsight. So, today we are focusing on the Lacerta files. Now, let me explain. Starting in December 1999, a female reptilian met with a man who called himself Olay for an interview. The meetings took place in Sweden. Olay took notes during the meeting, and those notes were later sent to friends in Finland to be translated into English and apparently some other languages. The reptilian female called herself Lacerta, which is not her real name at all, but it was easier to pronounce than her actual name at that time. Just by reading the interview notes, there was no way to actually know if the meetings took place. One simply had to read the words and hope that Olay was telling the truth. The notes came in 2 files, one for each day, since there were 2 meetings. Olay went out of his way to distribute those files free of charge throughout the internet, and a small community of people who read the Lacerta files were believers. Others were skeptics, and yet others didn't believe it at all. But most people on Earth simply never heard anything about it and were never exposed to this information. I am part of most people, until recently. So, according to the notes, Lacerta was a student of human behavior, and she wanted to conduct an experiment to see what would happen to the information that she gave in those 2 interviews. In particular, she wanted to observe the human response to this information. Now, this is how it would have ended for us at Farsight normally. There was no physical confirmation that the meetings actually took place, but our director at Farsight, Courtney Brown, read the Lacerta files, and he found that a significant amount of the content matched a number of our results in a lot of our remote viewing projects. So he became curious as to whether or not the meetings actually took place. Since we could not interview Olay directly, he had no alternative but to create a Farsight project addressing the Lacerta files, and then to have our remote viewers go and take a look and see what actually happened. And that is exactly what we ended up doing. Now, understand that I was a remote viewer on this project, and just like all the other remote viewers who participated with this project, I had no idea what the project was about until after all of my remote viewing was completed. I also had never read the Lacerta files, so this was all new to me. Well, once all of the remote viewing was done, including all the remote viewing recordings and sessions, it became obvious that the meetings between this reptilian female named Lacerta and Olay actually did happen. It was real. Now, don't worry, that is not a spoiler alert. By now, the fact that the meetings actually happened should be obvious to you, since we will not publish this project unless we came up with something worthwhile to talk about. But the big surprise is in what other information came across in these meetings. This stuff is deep, and you just have to watch the session for yourself in order to understand how deep it actually is. The actual target for this project is Lacerta when she is giving the information that is eventually recorded as the Lacerta files. The goal of the project was to describe Lacerta herself as well as Olay, and also the environment where the meeting took place. That is standard practice for all Farsight remote viewers when they go into a new target. Go to a location, look at what is there, and figure out what is going on. The results are astonishing. All of the remote viewers perceived the meeting, all corroborating reports. The viewers were also given pre-designated movement exercises that they needed to do during their sessions. Those movement exercises told no information to the viewers at all. They were based on page numbers of the interviews as described by Olay. They were called moments, and the viewers were told to move to moment 1, moment 2, and moment 3. Moment 1 related to the content on pages 4 and 5 of the Lacerta files, and that was mostly introductory stuff. Moment 2 related to the pages 12 through 14, which focused on ancient history going back to the ages of dinosaurs on Earth. And moment 3 related to pages 23 through 27, and that focused on an ET war affecting Earth. Now, the viewers were told nothing except to go to moment 1 or moment 2 or moment 3. They did not know what those moments were related to, and none of them knew that they were connected to page numbers in a book. Basically, when these sessions were being done, it seemed like mostly everything went according to plan, except for myself. So I have to confess to you that when I did my session for this project, I perceived the female reptilian lady right away.
All right, I just want to pause it there, see if any reaction. But I'll play a little bit of what she says about what happened. But any thoughts so far?
Oh, well, my goodness. It's just got my curiosity up more and more. No, I'm just very much listening.
Okay, all right. I'll just keep playing. This
Okay.
is I listened to the full thing. We're only gonna get a taste here, but here, I'll play the rest.
Way. And she perceived me. We basically kind of just stood there looking at one another for a good while, trying to figure each other out. At first, she was a bit rattled and a bit fearful, and she even notified the base to boost up her security since she did not know what would happen. It was highly unusual for her to be face to face with an Earth human who could sense her without any interferences or control. So after that, and after some back and forth, she basically told me that she did not want me to do any mental probes on her. She didn't like how it felt, and she somehow knew that I would do that, and that I was about to do that in a moment. The way she described it, to her, being mentally probed sounded a bit like rape, and I was not about to mentally rape a nice reptilian lady who politely asked me not to do that. So we agreed that we would simply ask her questions, and she would give me the answers, and we would just have a talk. But then I had to abandon any idea of doing the movement exercises to movements 1, 2, or 3. We simply talked, and what you will see in my video session is what we talked about. Basically, this is a super interesting project, the Lacerta files. You can still find them on the internet, both in print and as an audio file. I'm totally listening to these audio files. And here you have it, real meeting that took place December 1999, except for my session where I was in 2023 while Lacerta was in 1999. I know it sounds weird, but hey, remote viewing is weird to begin with. So this is what we get.
Okay, that's about all you get in the trailer, but I listened to the full session with all 3 remote viewers, and oh my gosh,
Really?
yeah.
So it's just like convincing, right? But you're not really seeing the we're not really looking at the Lacerta files right now, or
Well, the Lacerta files is a a document. It's a transcript, really long one, but I've read it pretty carefully. I mean, I've like studied it. It was one of the first deep rabbit holes I went into when I first started to realize UFOs were real. I was like, I need a huge dump of information. Does anyone out there claim to have a full story of what's going on? And the Lacerta files is one of the oldest, you know, uh, big sources of information I found.
so
And
where could the listeners find the Lacerta files to go through them themselves?
I mean, if you just do a Google search for Lacerta transcript, you will find I mean, one of the top links is always this just Google document that has a copy of it. There's, yeah, I mean, there's different places. That's where I first found it. Is for some reason someone's shared this Google document. I guess I'm showing it on the screen.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see it. Yeah, so
So
you
yeah,
just do a search, right? Lacerta files. It looks like a lot comes up.
yep, and it's out there. There is, some people have put it on YouTube. An audio. I think there's this Amazon Music. It looks like there's a few people that have turned it into an audio file that you can listen to. Um, I've I took like the entire Lacerta files and put them into Chat GPT and had to do an analysis to give me like a history of Earth based
Whoa.
on the Lacerta files. And I published that on on Twitter. Let me see. But yeah, so there's different
What is your Twitter handle? Can
meditation
people,
mat.
meditation Matt. Okay. So people
Yeah.
could find the Lacerta files there.
You can find let me see here. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna find my Lacerta documents because I think I put the full Lacerta files into a document and then I did an analysis. Let me see here. Yeah. Okay. So this is my analysis. I'll go ahead and, yeah, I think I already did share this analysis because I asked it here's the Lacerta file. Please write a timeline of Earth based on it. And this is what ChatGPT came up with. It said, based on the Lacerta file, here's the timeline of Earth. 65 million years ago, there was a global war between 2 alien species, the humanoids from Procyon and an advanced reptilian species. The war was primarily for the raw materials of Earth, especially copper. Reptilians detonated a fusion bomb in Middle America, causing a nuclear winter. And that was so Lacerta in this transcript claimed that there was not an asteroid that hit Earth 65 million years ago. It was a bomb. Then she says 60 million years ago, Earth was left alone. Life started to evolve slowly, and small advanced dinosaurs evolved over 40 million years to become Lacerta's reptilian race. Then she claims 1.5 million years ago, another alien species referred to as the Elohim, which is very similar to the word Elohim, which is in the Bible. Uh, she says 1.5 million years ago, they arrived on Earth. They were interested in the unadvanced ape humanoids and decided to help them evolve faster, intending to use them as a slave race in future wars. This led to a war between the Elohim and the advanced reptilian species. And it goes on to 700,000 years ago, the first advanced human civilization created by the Elohim existed on Earth. So that's kind of that potentially could correlate with Atlantis or Lemuria. Then 75,000 years ago, she says the fifth human civilization built the large triangular constructions known as the pyramids. Then 16,000 years ago, the sixth human civilization built cities. Oh, that's what she says is the ruins of which can be found today beneath the seas, so-called Bimini area. 8,500 years ago, seventh and current human civilization was created. So she says this is the seventh human civilization. And this is the only creation that current humans can remember and to which their religions refer. And then she says 5,000 years ago, the last battles between the advanced reptilian species and the Elohim were fought. And the aliens used powerful sonic weapons to destroy the reptilians' underground cities, but the reptilians were also able to destroy many of the aliens' surface installations and bases in space. And that's just the history of Earth. There's a ton of other stuff in the document, but I was, and then, I had it also analyze it for what are the different shaped UFOs. And she goes into, she explains there's genuine extraterrestrial ships, there's human-made UFOs, there's misinterpretation of natural phenomenon, then there's alien species UFOs, and then there's her species UFOs that fly around.
What do her UFOs look like?
She says Lacerta species has a fleet of disc-shaped craft and cylindrical craft. If a cylindrical craft is sighted with a blue serpent with 4 white wings or a dragon in the shape of a circle with 7 white stars in the middle, it belongs to her species.
Goodness.
Other alien species, she says, some UFOs belong to other alien species. For example, a metallic and disc-shaped object with 4 white and very long processes on the underside of the ship itself portrays a kind of quasi-gravitational light manipulation. The universal force field is being shifted in the direction of simulated gravity. This is a characteristic of a genuine alien ship. She says,
go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
The human-made UFOs, she says, especially military, these are usually triangular and built with streamlining to be steerable with a primitive recoil principle. They are built with the help of immature alien technology that was handed over to humans by extraterrestrials during the 60s and 70s. And like that little point right there, that is so commonly said in the UFO community that the triangular craft are human made. So this is going back to the Lacerta 1999. Her file was one of the first places to say that. But
wow.
The document is incredible. So I was like, oh my gosh, I hope this is real. I was like, I want to hear what these remote viewers get if they go back to try to look at this incident.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
So as you were going through the timeline, I kind of made a note of the 1.5 million years ago. Was it the Elohim you called them?
Well, it was written Elohim in the transcript.
Is that the Elohim? Could that be the same?
Yeah, I think it is, because this thing was translated from German. And so I think it seems clear this is meant to, she was using Elohim, which, that's a biblical term, which a ton of ufology claims that is a name for an ancient species of alien.
And I've heard that the Elohim are the same as the Anunnaki. Have you ever come across that?
Yeah, it sounds like that's a really strong possibility.
Especially since you mentioned, or ChatGPT said that these Elohim were creating a slave race. I mean, that definitely sounds like the Anunnaki.
Yeah, it totally correlates with the theory or the story from the Sumerian legend of the Anunnaki created humans from apes. Isn't that kind of what they, that's the same basic They're
Yeah, the way I understood it is, yeah, they came here, over a million years ago, and they came for the resources, digging up. Well, for some reason, this is copper you're mentioning, but I think the Elohim or the Anunnaki were after gold, probably everything they could get their hands on. But and then they were mining the planet themselves for a number of thousands of years until they decided that they could just take one of the species that was already here and genetically modify it as a slave to do the work that they didn't want to do anymore.
yeah. Yeah, I think the one thing we have to just be able to assume about, if let's just assume this really happened. Lacerta really was a female reptilian that revealed herself to a human for some reason and allowed him to interview her and to release a transcript of that interview back in 1999. If we just assume that, we also can assume she lied about some stuff to
Ah,
protect her species. I mean, it would you're if you're an alien species and you're going to reveal a dump of information, of course you might hide a few details that would endanger your species. Like maybe copper is not really the element that all these aliens have been fighting over for years. That would be a big reveal. Oh, by the way, this metal that you guys think is just whatever is like the most valuable element on Earth. No, she's not going to just tell us that. So
sure.
that might have been a little deceptive. And I even think the story about gold might be a lie because I think element 115, the metal that Bob Lazar says is key to anti-gravity craft, I think that might really be the most valuable element that these aliens might be fighting over for the years. And they might not have let them put into the Sumerian records the real element that they were fighting. So they just say it's gold.
Isn't that interesting? And I think it's Graham Hancock has another theory. Oh, I'm not 100% sure it was him, but there is another theory out there that the gold that they were referring to might be the type of consciousness or emotional potential that we have that they can harvest, and they
Mm,
call it gold. I don't know. I mean, wouldn't
yeah,
that be something? Don't
yeah.
know.
And even also, yeah, the gold mining might have really occurred, but it might have been a cover for the mining of something else. In any
Mm-hmm.
case,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
resources, let me just assume there's resources on this planet that aliens might want. That just makes sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So so I mean so yeah, I listened to the full Lacerta remote viewing sessions. That was the first remote viewing documentary from them that I listened to, and they have like 50 of them, 50 plus on there, and they have it seems at least like 10 different people that can do this remote viewing on their site, the farsight.org, Farsight Institute, founded by Courtney Brown. And I've been, I don't know, I'm probably up to like 5 hours worth of content from them. I've I like listened to that to all sorts of topics. They did the JFK assassination. They've done ton on UFOs. They've done um, remote viewing on Trump, on Biden. What do they know about
Can you
UFO?
give us a little
Yeah.
peek into what was said? Yeah.
Well, let's just start with the Lacerta one.
Okay.
Um, all three of their remote viewers saw this reptilian alien woman, but the one that we just heard from, this her name is her name is Princess something. That's the name she goes by. But
Okay.
she apparently is the most powerful, skilled remote viewer they have. And when she did this, the other two, it was fascinating because they followed the targets. They like saw the session, they saw Lacerta, they both went, and then they looked deep enough, they could tell this was a reptilian woman because they got bumpy skin. It took them a little while, and they could tell the other subject was a human male. Um, but one of the remote viewers saw like three other beings there with Lacerta, but hidden from view from the male human. and which makes sense if you're the leader or you're a member of an alien species, going to talk to a human for the first time in thousands of years, you would bring some help,
Sure.
hidden to protect you. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Um, and they do this thing called a deep mind probe. When they identify a subject, they can just probe their brain, and they don't like get and they it's hard to describe, but they get like feelings and attitudes and stuff like that. And so you kind of have to just listen to it. But the way they describe what's on inside Lacerta's mind, it is it totally fits with what you would expect. It was like her mind was focused on extremely big picture macro concerns of like the entire everything going on Earth, the impact of this conversation on her species, on everything happening on Earth. And his brain was completely just focused on the fact there was a reptilian alien woman standing before him talking to him. You know, it was just fascinating to listen to how this was described. It was and 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 you could get they got like senses of her attitude towards him and towards humanity. She was incredibly smart, incredibly intelligent. But it got the most fascinating was when we got to this third remote viewing session by this woman, Princess. I believe that's the name she goes by. Because when she started to target in on Lacerta, Lacerta saw her, and that's what she just described in this. Lacerta is apparently so telepathic. It seems that Princess had a real-time telepathic talk with Lacerta,
Hmm.
and this is what she got. So she saw Lacerta in her home, where apparently she currently is, and she saw the real form of Lacerta, and she said Lacerta is actually not in her true form is giant. Like she said, almost dragon-like in size.
Woo.
Um, and she was able to like she said she was able to like touch Lacerta's skin and head. Like Lacerta let her do that. And Lacerta went by the name, gave her a different name, gave her the name Soraya as her name,
Hmm.
and then um and was apparently the leader of she was like the queen of her at least tribe of reptilians, and extremely and very matronly, mother-like and noble sort of, and beautiful. Said she was an incredibly beautiful being, um and extremely paranoid about the borders of her territory. And she described that Lacerta had like AI or something that was monitoring the borders of her territory really carefully, and so that she would know instantly if anything outside came into the borders for territory,
So,
which
do we have any idea where this territory of hers is?
they did not. Well, she did not reveal that if
Yeah.
she knew it, but I believe that's a great question. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
I
Is
mean,
it
and
here
also
on Earth?
I believe it was,
Okay.
but she did not specify. And they have a different, they have a bunch of different sessions. They have a remote viewing session of reptilians on Mars, and of bases on the moon. I haven't listened to those yet, but this is the thing, is the crazy thing about going down the rabbit hole with the Farsight group. They've done so many of these sessions. They have been using this remote viewing to do detailed research to figure out what the heck is going on. And this guy, Courtney Brown, is similar to he's been communicating with an alien, I think named Harvey, since for years and years and years. And I haven't watched the videos on that yet. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole, but it kind of reminded me of you and your communication with your friend. What's your friend's name?
Oh, my inner guide. Oh, I just call him Charlie, but he's changed names over the years, and I start to wonder maybe Charlie was this mantis. I don't know. I'm so
Mhm.
confused at this point.
Yeah,
But
what do you call? Do you say my friend Charlie? Is that how you refer to him?
yeah, that's a blog on my website. My friend or my God Charlie, because Charlie has been a presence in my life, and it's not that it's always been Charlie. It's just I chose the name Charlie just because it felt friendly and comforting to me, and so it's actually changed. It's not even gender specific. For a long time, I felt like it was a female influence, but yeah, just kind of an inner guide that's not really vocal, but sort of implants guided wisdom or something in my brain that I can translate into English, which, and Tibetans call that insights. Insight meditation practice can facilitate that kind of communication with your higher self.
So,
Um,
so I'm so what possessed you to name this entity, this source of insight with a name? When did this start?
oh my goodness, I don't have any beginning memory. It goes all the way back. My first memory, I think, was me having a tantrum in the crib. And suddenly I was just enveloped by this entirely warm, comforting presence, but there was nobody I could see. I was just suddenly, overcome with this sense of it's okay. And that progressed into language later on. I was able to translate what was being conveyed. And sometimes I used to think I could almost see Charlie. But that's a whole story. And all that's on my website if for the curious. But I
Well,
always felt like he or she was the innermost, wisest part of me. I didn't really feel like it was a separate entity. I felt like I was channeling my higher self or a higher consciousness somehow.
okay. Well, the reason I bring it up is because this guy Courtney Brown has apparently been communicating with Harvey, this alien Harvey, for many years. And like I said, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole with that, but it's kind of similar to Alex Collier, who says he's been communicating with a couple Andromedan aliens for many years. But they did remote viewing sessions on Elon Musk, and they did a
Wow.
deep dive into Elon Musk, and when they, I believe all three of their remote viewers, when they did a deep mind probe of Elon Musk, they saw another entity in there with him.
Oh
And
my.
yeah, and it was and it and now that as you describe how Charlie is with you, they sound very similar. Not, I mean, not like the similar in necessarily personality, but just like, yeah, they saw an entity inside Elon Musk's mind with him, helping him and helping him figure stuff out throughout his life. So I don't know what to do with that, but
Well, it kind of what's coming to my mind is the whole Hinduism. They believe that the higher self is often, depicted as someone else living inside of us. You can see a lot of the Hindu paintings, there's Rama and Krishna, but a lot of people have these images of these avatars in their third eye area, in their forehead. So it's like this little wise person that rides around with us, who is actually our higher, truest self, connected to the God consciousness.
mhm.
Um, and I guess it is depicted, and in my case, maybe experienced as another consciousness within me. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, if telepathy is real, it opens up the possibility of, I mean, so many things could be, it's like anything could be real. We could have entities sending information into our minds. They could be possibly, we could, I mean, when I meditate now, I am like, who else is here? Who else is listening? I mean,
mhm.
I'm just like, um, and one of the fascinating things, really fascinating with one of the great things about this Farsight is, I mean, they have so much information. This guy Courtney Brown, he seems to believe he's got a lot of this figured out, figured out a lot of what's going on with Earth, the history of it, the relationship between us and our souls, and what Earth is, what the different alien groups are. And so it's even, I'm not claiming he necessarily has all the truth, but I love people who have a narrative that they think fits all the stuff together, because it
Yeah,
gives me
just to
something
put
to
the
work
puzzle
with.
together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
and
And
he's written a book, has he?
I don't think so. It's mainly, but he does, he has podcasts that he's putting out. So I think, and they're doing like monthly disclosure updates. Like I just listened, I wish I could play it. I don't think it's, I had to pay to get access to their um back site, but I was able to play this trailer because it's up on YouTube. But I'd love to, I mean, I'll see what I can, what I'm allowed to play on here. Um, but yeah, he has, um, he claims to, I mean, all right, I'm going to just summarize the basic gist of what he says is going on.
Okay.
Uh, we are, um, we are not our bodies. He says we are, he calls them not, he doesn't call them souls. He has a different word but he calls them, this word is isby. But it basically, it's like the concept of a soul. We are beings that are with free will, that are able to do stuff. And we actually cannot be killed. When our body is destroyed, our isby, he calls it, um, and we go into that, and often people see a light right after they die, that he says, this was his thing. I mean, I'm not claiming this is true, but he claims when you see that light, he says there are some not so friendly aliens. He says there's two groups of aliens. There's the friendly ones that they work with, and then there's more malicious ones that seem to be the ones that they dominate Earth. The more malicious ones control most of Earth, and Earth, they want us to keep on coming back into these bodies, I guess, because they use human society like still like slaves, essentially. He says this is basically a prison planet.
Yeah.
And when we, but they're working, everyone, there is a group working on trying to free humanity from this. And he says, I mean, gosh, this is such a rabbit hole, but he says
Right.
that what happens is we leave our bodies, and then there's sort of like they try to convince us to come back into another body on Earth because it sort of serves their purposes. So they say when you go into the light, that's where they zap your memory so they can sort of keep you from remembering all the full truth of who you are. They can't kill you. You are an immortal being that that has and you know how people, when they sometimes they have these near death experiences, they say suddenly they understood everything, they see
Right.
everything. Well, he says that is who you really are. That is, but you're kept here. It's sort of a malicious act to prevent your memory from fully seeing everything about what you know and who you are and where you come from, your full past lives and everything. And yeah, that's kind of like, and he says there's they do talk a lot about the reptilian aliens underground, and it seems that the bulk of them are pretty malicious, but there's definitely some that are not. And it seems like the Lacerta, when they did this, she was not perceived as this like evil entity. She was more like seen like a queen, just really protective of her species, and kind of afraid of, like, for one, their location being known. I mean, I really felt like, oh, this makes total sense that she is almost terrified of all of humanity knowing exactly where she and her city and her people live. Um, Oh, an interesting moment in the Lacerta, when she saw Lacerta. Lacerta had a human like right there with her, a red-headed male human subject was
Wow.
like right with her. So it was like, that was kind of fascinating. And um yeah, and gosh, the rabbit holes upon rabbit holes that I've gone down.
You know, it's just amazing. I mean, the way you're describing Lacerta, the vision that comes to my mind is the J.R.R. Tolkien's in the trilogy where the hobbits, go down into the mountain, into the inner mountain, and they discover, I guess, I don't know who it was, Frodo, I guess, discovered the dragon sleeping in,
Yeah.
mountains of gold. There's something almost iconic about that image in our psyche.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of all what do they call it? Who was it that did the Campbell did all the iconic, what do you call them? Psychological. We all share certain icons. Not That's not the right word, but
Yeah. It's not coming to me at
the
the moment.
hero, the
Yeah.
fool, the wise, we all have these parts of us, and there's something iconic about that dragon
Hmm.
that seems to be part of us. Interesting.
Yeah.
And this mind
Yeah.
probing thing reminds me of the Star Trek, Spock's mind meld. Did you ever watch him do a mind
Mhm.
meld?
Yeah.
Yeah. So much in the literature and movies that we see and read that's actually coming from something that might be actually true. So yeah,
Yeah.
crazy, crazy.
Yeah. So that's a fascinating thing, resource. I mean, a whole new source of of an interesting theory for me to study this the Farsight Institute, the remote viewing of all this
Yeah.
stuff
Oh,
they're getting of all
archetypes. That's
archetypes.
the name I
Yeah.
was looking for. Yeah, the word. Yeah, this is great. I'm going to check that out more. The Farsight Institute. Um, and you said there's a $10 monthly thing to have access to all their
Yeah,
classes.
$10 a month, and you can just watch all their videos. And they if you go to farsight.org, you can see trailers for all their stuff. So they have all sorts of things on disclosure. They did President Xi of China. I haven't watched that one. Um, Vladimir Putin. I haven't watched that one. They did something on Noah's Ark, Pumapunku, Gobekli Tepe, uh, Sodom and Gomorrah, Lao Tzu, Pope. I listened to the one all about the Pope and Jesus and the crucifixion. Oh
Oh
man,
my goodness.
they got a crazy theory on that one. They did they did a deep remote viewing on the Pope to find out, does he know the truth about aliens or not? And then does his inner circle know about the truth about aliens or not? And the Pope's circle of cardinals, council of cardinals, do they know about it? And they all knew about the aliens.
Does not surprise me at all.
Yeah. And but they have I won't even say what they said. It'll upset people.
Okay. Well,
I'll save
boy,
that one.
you get all that for $10 a month. I
Oh,
mean,
it is. I think it's
yeah.
well worth $10 to spend a month just like inhaling this stuff. If you like, um, I mean, I'm just desperate to know the truth. I just want to know, what is the truth. I know I am convinced these UFOs are really seen. So if these UFOs are really seen, they're really flying around Earth, then there has to be a story. There has to be some story that explains how these UFOs fit into human history. And I'm not interested in the wrong ones. I just want to know the real ones. I want the explanation. And if remote viewing actually works, and these guys seem to be honestly trying to figure this stuff out, then it is the ultimate source. It could be the ultimate source. And so that's what I'm hoping. These guys, they seem to be dedicated to truth. They seem to be just wanting to reveal the truth. They have too many people involved to be like, it doesn't seem like, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a chance these guys are under the control of the CIA, I suppose, or something, some group.
I
But
mean, it just seems that if remote viewers are seeing the same things without actually, communicating with each other, I mean, that's kind of That seems like true to me. That could, whatever they're seeing at the same time would have some basis in reality. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. The whole point of having three different remote viewers all do the same target is you can compare their notes and
Right.
compare, and they don't come up with identical stuff, but their stuff correlates. And also you have other people doing this in the world. I mean, I used to talk about Elizabeth April a lot. She is someone who claims to be able to do this kind of thing. She claims to have done remote viewing and telepathically visited and talked to reptilians inside the earth, on the moon. And but the thing is, whenever you listen to Elizabeth April, it's only her. There's no one else that is confirming uh any of her experiences. So it's all limited by one person's ability to interpret what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
but also I do want to say Elizabeth April's stories of everything that she explains going on, it correlates with the Farsight Institute in many, many ways. She talks about us being star seeds. That's a phrase you hear in the New Age world, but it fits with the Farsight's thing that we are beings that are not really of this three-dimensional body. We are beings that can come in and out of bodies. Um, there's definitely correlations there.
Yeah.
And
Does the Farsight Institute give, like classes on how to
they
do
do.
viewing? Really?
Yeah, you can learn, and they even have yeah, you can learn from their remote viewers. Their remote viewers teach it, and I guess you set up one-on-one relationships with the teachers. The Farsight doesn't actually, they don't take any money from they say they don't, it's really but they facilitate you connecting with their remote viewing specialists, and yeah, and you can just learn it from them.
Wow.
And
Oh, that's
I watched one of the classes or one of the sessions that Courtney Brown was teaching one of their current really skilled remote viewers. And it was, from several years ago. And it was clear that this guy he was teaching was new to it. And it was fascinating to watch Courtney coach him on how to do it and how to there's like just sort of little practices they do, how they just allow themselves to, when they get an image, just go with it, draw what you have. And he sort of really coaches them on how to just trust the raw image or information coming in and not jump to a deduction. Like it's very easy for your brain when you see you start to see the image of, say, a building with a fence around it. Your brain might try to jump to, oh, it's Area 51, but and that's a deduction. It's really
right.
specific. And so it's like you got to stop your brain from doing that and just be like, you see a structure, you see a border around it, and he's like, you got to go slow, and you always separate your deduction, which are really guesses, really specific guesses, from the actual information you're getting. And if you're really disciplined about that, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think you'd really have to be careful to watch not to be jumping to conclusions. I think that's what you're trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. You jump
Yeah.
to these, your brain just starts to fill in, oh, I'm clearly doing a remote viewing of Jesus or, something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
just stay
yeah.
almost as if you're just like a camera, looking at what is, not.
But I tell you, the
not
remote viewing they did of Elon Musk, when they did the
yeah.
deep brain dive into him, it was so incredible because Elon Musk's brain was just, they were just like, oh my gosh, it's like a palace. There's so much information. It's so organized. And they
Wow.
were like describing him as being like on the spectrum of autism. And they were just, one was going to so much detail of all these different topics, and then she encountered the other being inside of Elon's mind. But by
Wow.
the end of it, this woman, when she was done, after she had done this deep dive mind probe, she's like, this really seems like Elon Musk. She's like, that would be my guess that I just did Elon Musk. But
Incredible. Yeah,
yeah, it's
I think you've talked me into it. I'm going to have to do the $10 a month and just start doing some probing into their mind. What's going on?
yeah.
This
Well,
is,
it's I mean, I'm not like trying to like promote them. I'm just searching for the truth. But yeah, it's it's fascinating. And
yeah, yeah.
so all right,
So
well,
we're
we
just
can.
about done. I just wanted to, do you think we could do 3 breaths of a meditation just to get grounded and
Oh yeah, I mean, we can do however long you want. If you want to do 5 minutes or you want to do something really brief, whatever
Well,
works
I
for
don't
you.
want to run too much overtime. I know the listeners are probably expecting an hour, but yeah, let's just see where it goes. Are
Okay,
you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, let's start to just take a couple of nice deep breaths. So much information about aliens and agendas. Our mind can kind of feel like scrambled eggs sometimes. So, meditation, I think, is essential at this point to help us keep our feet on the floor, keep our balance over our feet. So, let's just breathe for a minute. Try and follow one breath from the bottom all the way to the top. Recognize how that feels when you feel satiated, and then just release it, relax it, let it go. Let's begin to circle our wagons right around where we are. Bring our awareness into our immediate environment. And this is all we know to be real, right here, right now. Breathing in and breathing out. Notice any anxiety where you might be holding it. Tight shoulders, tight hands. Just scan your body real quick and just notice where you're holding that tension. That tension of don't know. We don't know anything. We know that we're right here, right now. See if you can pick up any sounds around you. Motor running, bird chirps, cars, things that just come into our awareness and then fade away. This present moment awareness is absolute treasure. This is what we have. This is what we can rely on. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Doro.
Have a great week.
You too.